I remember the first times I was there, like the blogs were starting and the people were writing on social networks, and they all saying like I was ruining Portuguese gastronomy. Portuguese gastronomy was like traditional. I was doing my contemporary way. It's not good, and I remember the change. Then we got the Michelin star, and then all these opinions changed.
Suddenly it was great.
And suddenly it was great. And thank you so much for what you're doing for the country.
Okay, well, welcome to the Red Chair. Today we have a very special guest, José Avillez, very well known and famous Michelin star chef, and a great entrepreneur in hospitality and the restaurant business. José, welcome to Indico.
Pleasure to be here.
Great to see you again. Normally I'm at your workplace. You're not at my workplace. I'm at one of your restaurants, which are world famous and super delicious and really great. And you are a super famous chef, but maybe many of our global entrepreneurs wouldn't expect, an entrepreneur of your kind to be here at the Red Chair. Tell us, who is José Avillez?
Always a difficult question. I'm a cook, sometimes a chef, an entrepreneur. I wanted to be...
You didn't start as a cook, right? You didn't start.
No, actually, I studied arts. I wanted to be an architect. Then actually, I made a degree in marketing communication. Before that, I wanted to be a carpenter. So I think that if I go and see really well, the things are related, like architecture, carpenter, cook. I think he has this...
You're building things.
Building things and some creativity and I never went to cooking school, but I always loved to cook. When I was 10, I used to bake cakes and tarts with my sister to sell to the neighbors and family. An amazing business because our mother paid all the expenses and we only had the profit.
Great gross margin. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cascais.
Cascais.
Actually in a small farm with a vegetable garden with some animals, very near the beach. So I got very close to what are now my ingredients. So I think that helped me a lot also to have this connection to the kitchen and to the gastronomy. I did some internships with Ferrat Adria, with Alain Ducasse.
How did that happen? How did you get there?
So I was finishing my my degree in communication and marketing, and I had to do a thesis to the end of the degree, and I chose Portuguese gastronomy, a study about the image and identity, like a marketing study.
Which there was none at the time.
No, it was something. Right? It was something that actually Rui Vinhas da Silva, that it was my professor at the time. He did this study to Marks and Spencer in England, and I used the same study applying to Portuguese gastronomy, and it was like this interception or this gap between the image and identity, what the foreign people in Portugal working in the business thought about Portuguese gastronomy and what the Portuguese thought about it. So I had to interview 100 people at the time, and I would say that like 20 something years ago, 100 people were almost all the people that were important in food business in Portugal. And I met José Bento dos Santos, that then helped me with the stage, with the internship with Ferrand, with Alain Ducasse, and then Bristol, Eric Frechon. And I started in 2003 with him, working to promote his wines, learning a lot with him, and then opened my first restaurant in 2004.
So when you did the internship, you were not actually working at the kitchen. You were working in communication.
I was this. It was on this time I was doing my thesis that I thought that's okay. I really like this, but I wanted to be a chef. And I remember to go to talk with Maria de Lourdes Modesto, I would say the most well-known Portuguese food writer that wrote the Cozinha Tradicional Portuguesa, one of the most important books in Portugal. It was for many years they sell more than the Bible. It was something that never happened to other book. A very traditional book. And I confessed to her that I wanted to be a cook, and she was like, okay, but it's a very difficult life. You have a degree already, you think better, but if you really want, it's a beautiful profession and you should go for it. So I made a internship in Fortaleza do Guincho. At that time it was Antoine Westerman, the chef, 1 Michelin star. I stayed there for 6 months while I was finishing my degree still. And when I finished, I had a proposal from José Avillez to work with him. It was like helping him with dinners and lunches to promote the Quinta do Monte Douro wine in Alenquer, in Quinta do Monte Douro. And in his office here, that he had like 4,000 books, cooking books, and I was there learning and testing, and I was very lucky because I entered in a way that I didn't went to cooking school, so I could study more and learn with him, and then he find me some small kitchen courses with Alain Ducasse and the stage with Eric Frechon. And then I've opened a restaurant. I stayed for 1 year. Then I left to Brazil. Then I opened a catering business in Cascais. I went for a season at Bulli, 2007. When I came back, I was invited to go for like a head chef to Tavares. At the time, was the oldest restaurant in Portugal, one of the oldest in the world actually. It was quite difficult and a very challenging project.
How old were you when you were invited for that?
In Tavares I was 28, 29.
So you're quite young.
I was quite young.
And you didn't have a lot of experience, but they already recognized that you had...
Yeah, so it was like a big challenge for me. And actually in 1 year and a half we got a first Michelin star. Now I remember the first times I was there, like the blogs were starting and the people were writing on social networks, and they all saying like I was ruining Portuguese gastronomy. Portuguese gastronomy was like traditional. I was doing like contemporary way. It's not good. And I remember the change. Then we got the Michelin star, and then all these opinions changed.
Suddenly it was great.
And suddenly it was great. And thank you so much for what you're doing for the country. So it was quite fast. And we were very lucky at the time also because it was the beginning more or less of the increasing of the tourism in Portugal. So 2008, 2009, and then 2010, the subprime crash in the United States that arrived here 2010. So at that time I was already with my business partners, the Avillez family, and there were so many possibilities and so many opportunities at the time because restaurants were closing. The rents were still very low, actually.
Yes.
So we did some great business at the time. I had a lot of ideas. I wanted to do a restaurant group. I always thought that I could have like the fine dining, but also be more democrat and have places more casual dining that you can go.
Other concepts
that you can go in different consume situations and go more affordable. And so we started this way. We've opened Cantinho in Chiado. We've opened Belcanto because I was living in Tavares at that time. So we invested in our own fine dining restaurant. It was Tavares, Belcanto, sorry. We opened Cantinho, then we had the opportunity of open mini bar, then Café Lisboa, then Cantinho in Porto, then a pizzeria, then Bairro with 4 concepts inside. Now we have 16 restaurants under my name, the same umbrella. One in Dubai with Mandarin Oriental, one in Macau with Grand Palace Lisboa Lagerfeld Hotel, and the rest mainly in Chiado, but Cascais and Porto too. So I ran a lot for the last 10, 15 years.
You work quite hard.
work quite hard. We have a big team. We are around 500 people already, a little bit less. We were a little bit more before COVID. And we serve around 2,000 people a day. Sometimes 3,000, depends on the season. And we are very happy. Belcanto is now 2 Michelin stars. Encanto, the gastronomic vegetarian, 1 star, 1 Michelin star. Tashka in Dubai, 1 Michelin star. We just got we are in 31st position in the 50 best restaurant. So we've been busy.
You've been very busy. So you spoke about this transition from traditional to contemporary cuisine. Did you have that in mind when you wanted to become a chef? Did you see that there was a potential of going from a very sort of traditional Portuguese cuisine that the Portuguese love to a more international, contemporary interpretation that was recognized by the world? Because at the time, Portuguese cuisine was not recognized by the world. It was delicious, but nobody really knew about it, right?
Yeah, I think that when we talk about Portuguese traditional cuisine, we always think that the tradition is something that it's stuck, but it's not. Actually, one of the dishes that we have more in Portugal, and we talk more like a bacalhau. We don't have bacalhau in our shore. We start buying from the English, then fishing the bacalhau, the cod, and bringing and salted sun-dried. So that was already an evolution in Portuguese cuisine.
It was not traditional.
It was not, because tradition, I must say that normally it's things that we have in our land, in our sea. Even ingredients like tomato, peppers, potatoes, we didn't have here. No. All the spices we brought from India and other places, like now we're using cinnamon, is very traditional for us. 500 years ago, we didn't know what it was. Right. So there's always an evolution. I think the big difference is that at the time, the creativity in food was not because you wanted to have a better meal or because you wanted to do something different. Was first because of need. Imagine like escabeche. Escabeche is to preserve.
Yes.
Is to preserve food. The fridge only started less than 100 years ago, or more or less than 100 years ago. But in people's houses, fridge was around the Second World War. So you didn't have ways to preserve food. Yep. So adding vinegar, adding salt to the cod, adding sugar to the sweet. Most of the Portuguese typical sweets started in monasteries. The monks used the whites to clarify wine. The nuns prepare with all the yolks and a lot of sugar to preserve the sweets. So all these egg sweets that we know, most of the recipes start like with 24 egg yolks, 1 kilo of sugar. Because they lived it in the basement, no fridge, in the state for weeks or months. So right now we could take out like 30% of the sugar, and it's better than before. So that tradition is also evolution. Now all the fish that we have now, with all the transportation, with the fridges inside, everything, things are much better. You see, in the past, you have a lot of like French, Parisian recipes with fish that they add a lot of vinegar or wine to disguise the bad flavor because the fish arrives there not so fresh. Right. So things changed a lot, and it's normal that food changes also. Right. But we're talking about like Portuguese cuisine or fine dining, because contemporary Portuguese cuisine or fine dining are still different, because of course we have 55 people working in Belcanto, we have 35 people in the kitchen, so could be contemporary, but it's also fine dining. Right. You can do contemporary cuisine at home, but fine dining at home, it's difficult.
You need to have a very special home.
So I always thought that we needed to promote what is ours, the best ingredients that we have, the best preparations, serving maybe in a different way. So that's how it started. Many of the chefs at that time in Portugal were preparing French cuisine, international cuisine, not with the Portuguese ingredients or flavors. So we wanted to do something different, and it was unbelievable actually. And we had a lot of luck with the timing, with the increase of tourism. And
for sure, you have to be a little bit lucky, but you have to work hard. But tell me, did you also from the start, did you imagine you wanted to have? Did you want to be an entrepreneur? So first you were an architect, then you did communication, and then you became a cook, and then suddenly you had a restaurant group. I mean, how did this work? Did you imagine yourself as an entrepreneur?
I go back and I see myself baking cakes and tarts with my sister and selling. So at that time I already knew that I wanted to do both. And what I think that we did, I think that in Portugal we had a lot of great restaurants food-wise, and we had a great business in restaurant world, but it was not normal to have these two groups intersect. And I think we achieved to do this. Great foods, organizing as a great business, and to do something that it's different. So to think it as a real business with all the metrics that other business have. And actually restaurant business, if you think, it's like a factory because you produce, but also it's a commercial and sales place. It's a retail business. So if you think, it's one of the most complete business in the world.
And the most complex and difficult.
Very complex, because you deal with different people every day, different guests, with all your staff. You have a lot of staff, much more even than in hotels.
It's very staff intensive and probably some rotation of
fresh ingredients, fresh ingredients. So
super complex.
But if you do it right,
it's a great business.
It's a great business.
It's amazing. Always hard work.
It's always very hard work.
24/7 almost.
24/7. Taxes are quite high comparing with our competitors around. Like Spain has restaurant VAT of like 10%.
Right.
We have 23 or 16 average, or 13, maybe the average 16, 17. But it's different when a tourist comes to Portugal, to Spain. If they understand the difference of price in the taxes, you have also a problem. There are some differences.
Did you in all these years, looking back as an entrepreneur in such a complex business and seeing so many other restaurants failing, would you have done things differently? What were the big lessons you learned over the last 10 years as an entrepreneur, or 15 years?
This is a business of cents, of euros. It's not you need to control everything. You can only deliver quality because people understand when you don't do it. So
even in an affordable concept. I think the difference is, if you cannot serve a sea bass, you need to serve a horse mackerel. But it's a great ingredient anyway, in a different level of price. And even at fine cuisine, you have to be very careful about costs, and particularly in fine cuisine, right?
Very careful.
So even if the prices for the end consumer are very high, so is that one of the big lessons, is that you have to sort of manage the group very, very tightly from a financial perspective? For sure.
And we learned a lot during COVID, because we were even bigger at the time when we had to close everything.
Because you had to close some restaurants, of course.
We had to close everything for months. And for 1 month and a half, we didn't know what was going to happen. Then we started to have some support from the government. But at the time, we had to go and look at all the costs and start taking out what we could take out. And actually, after COVID, we increased like 5%
your margins.
Our margin of EBITDA, because we did the work. And actually, at that time, a CEO was arriving to the company, and we were able to be together for a month, rethinking all the organization of the company.
Interesting. And when you look at these all new entrepreneurs in different areas, do you see that there is now a different type of Portuguese entrepreneurship also? a little bit like your fine dining cuisine and new contemporary Portuguese cuisine. Do you see that not only like you, but in other areas also there's great entrepreneurs that maybe in the past were not there?
Yeah, for sure. I think that the Portuguese have a lot of vision. We work hard. What I think is that in the past in Portugal, nobody promotes that you could be an entrepreneur. They wanted you to go and work
in a big
company, or even like our parents, they were afraid, and so our grandparents. So things change. I think people start to travel. People start to look at foreign entrepreneurs that came to Portugal, and they did it well. And we start business outside Portugal also and did it well. And of course now in many different areas we have great entrepreneurs like you, and so I think that right now and the restaurant and the Portuguese gastronomy helps in that too. People come here, they see amazing companies, and they come to invest in Portugal, not only in real estate but in technology, in many things. And they stay more because they have great food, great weather, but they understand that they can do very good investments here. So I think that's very important. And when you think about the different reasons of tourism and of sports, we find golf and surf and religion things like Fatima, but we now see that, of course, business-wise, Portugal is more and more interesting. And all of those areas of interest, all the people, they need to eat. So if you are in a place doing whatever and you have good food, it's much better than if you are in a place that you don't have good food.
It's not good. Yeah.
So I think that we have the people, the hospitality, we have the weather, we have the food. And now I think we have great ideas, great entrepreneurs, some foreign and Portuguese investment, and so I think we are in a good
foreign and Portuguese talent. There's so much foreign talent here as well. Yes. And you've made a huge contribution to all this movement, and you, by attracting and retaining people, and being a landmark for the country. So congratulations, well done on your entrepreneurial career, and you're a great example for entrepreneurs. Good to see you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Bye.